everybody. Welcome to Twisdon360 Political Talk from KowaPodcast. Today, we are going to talk about two issues and orders to follow. So, locally today, it is a series of Facebook posts called Outline X Twisdon360, which is posted on Twisdon360 and KowaPodcast Facebook page. In this special edition, we are going to talk about double feature edition of Outline X Twisdon360. We deep dive into two seismic events shaking the pillars of power in Nigeria and across the African continent. First, we spotlight a historic protest by the Nigerian police officers, both retired and active, led by two revolutionary figures, who I would call a social justice fighters, crusaders, I would say, who march not for police brutality but for dignity and justice, with the voices like I said, two crusaders, Omoyele, Sowore, and Bello, who is leading Gaskiya, and Omoyele Sowore, known as a convener of revolution now. Leading the charge, we unpack why this protest is more than a wage demand and pension demand. It is a revolution from within, a rupture in the silence of the imposers. This is the beginning of the holy alliance between the oppressed people across all uniforms and backgrounds. Then we turn our lens to the legacy of Frantz Fanon, revolutionary psychiatrist and anti-colonial theorist, from the wretched of the earth to today's neo-colonial manipulation. Fanon's fire still burns. We reflect on his wisdom and the psychological war against African identity. Why true liberation starts in the mind. This episode is a call to consciousness, a refusal to stay silent, and reminder that the people, even within the system, are rising. Don't forget, this is Twisdon360 Politics Unplugged from KowaPodcast. We are going to deep dive into the episode. Just a moment.
Shatter the screen, unplug the lies, reveal what's unseen. Twisdon360, no filters, just truth. Time to awaken, challenge their proof.
Yes, time to awaken and challenge their proof. This is Twisdon360 Politics Unplugged. This is revolutionary media. Outline X Twisdon360 today talks about police protest, a people's uprising within the system. On this day, the tides of resistance surged from unexpected quarter, not from radical student movement, not from labor unions or civil society, but from within the rank of the Nigerian police force itself. The Nigerian police, long perceived as the imposers of operation, are now demanding liberation. The walls are cracking. The uniformed arm of the status quo is no longer monolithic. A quiet storm has become a public outcry. This time it is the oppressed within the institution who are saying no more. At the front line of this historic protest were two familiar but courageous figures of conscience. These figures of conscience are Omoyele Sowore, the relentless voice of Nigeria's revolutionary left, known across the country for his fearless confrontation of corruption and his role as a convener of Revolution Now movement. And beside him, Dr. Bello Galadanchi, popularly known as Bello, a sharp-witted Hausa digital satirist and mobilizer behind Gaskiya, a platform of peerless Talakawa that are fighting for justice, who used the comedy and truth to expose the hypocrisy of power. But the heroes of the day were the retired and active police officers themselves, men and women, who once stood at checkpoint and stations, now stood side by side with the masses. These are individuals who had spent their lives under an institution that promises discipline but delivers destitution, and institution that uses, abuses, and then discards. Today they rose, they marched, not for revenge but for dignity, not with violence but with a revolutionary spirit, a rotten system exposed by its own enforcers. Their demands are painfully simple. Pay us our pensions, which we earn, and not just hungry pensions, not hunger wages, not hunger pensions. They are asking, saying that pay us our pension, which we earn. Stop treating officers like tools to be broken and thrown away. Dismantle the corrupt hierarchy that enriches a few at the top, while those on the ground beg for uniforms, bullets, and sometimes even beg bribes. They would stop you and ask you, hey, do something now. And when you give it 10 naira, 50 naira, 20 naira, they would collect and let you go, regardless of what you are carrying. Police are not criminal, but the system is the criminal. And that system that made police doing that is the criminal, and we have to challenge it and restore the humanity and dignity to those who swore an oath to serve. The Nigerian government has long depended on loyalty of the police to shield it from the rage of the people. The loyalty has come at a brutal cost, not just to the public, but to the officers themselves. Stabbed up peer wages, accommodations, health care, and post-service care. Many officers live and die in miserable condition, buried by the same system they once protected. If you listen to the testimony of the officers at the picket lines today, you definitely know the system is taking them for advantage, using them like a tool. When they are broken, then they are going to be thrown away. And like we said, the Nigerian government has long depended on the loyalty of the police to shield it from the rage of the people. And that loyalty has come at a brutal cost, not just to the public, but to the police officers themselves. Stabbed up peer wages, accommodation, and health care. Look, a police officer can retire at the level of superintendent and just get 30,000 naira every month, while the hierarchy, the top officers, are getting millions from PENCOM, which is Pension Commission. The people who are serving there receive millions of salary at the end of the month, while the owners of the pension get miserable 30,000 naira. And when even those charged with defending the ruling order start protesting that same order, we are no longer in a moment of reform. We are in a moment of rupture. And there is something that happened today, what I call the Holy Alliance. And this Holy Alliance is the convergence of the oppressed together with the other parts of the oppressors. This protest marked the birth of what must now be called a Holy Alliance, a coalition of the oppressed, cutting across class, uniform, region, and ideology. It is a powerful alignment. The activists and the retired police officers, the leftists, the civil servant, the comic rebel, and the street protesters, they may come from different corners, but they are united in one cry: enough is enough. And that is what we are saying: enough is enough. This is more than a protest. It is a moral thunderclap in the face of power. It is a revolutionary whisper inside the fortress. And it is the only beginning. To those still in power, let this be your warning. If even your own police are no longer silent, who will protect your corruption? Sowore pointed out the Senate building, say that the people who are there are protected by the police when they are carrying millions and billions of their ill-gotten money. The bankers, the politicians, the governors are protected by the policemen with the gun in their hand. And at the end of the month, they get some hunger wages. They are starved to death. And what we are saying and what they are saying and what we are all saying is that enough is enough. To the people, do not mock these officers. Do not see them as your enemy. Many of them were always victims in disguise. Welcome them, embrace them, and together march toward justice. Because the Nigerian people have never been the problem. The system has been the problem. And the system is the problem. And now the system's own imposers are waking up to that truth. Solidarity forever. Like we say in this podcast, we are not just neutral. We are standing with the people, and that's why we say solidarity forever, and we stand with that solidarity. Don't forget, you are listening to Twisdon360 Politics Unplugged. You are listening to KowaPodcast from Twisdon360 Politics Unplugged. So we talk about police protest, and we are going to cross the line to go to the historic moment celebrating Frantz Fanon. 100 years ago, the guy was born. Imperialism lives behind a gums of road which we must clinically detect and remove from our land, but from our mind as well. Frantz Fanon, the wretched of the earth. A flame that still burns. On this day, we remember not just a man, but a movement, a mind, a force. Frantz Fanon, a psychiatrist, revolutionary, militant, writer, uncompromising critic of colonialism and neo-colonial betrayal, remains one of the most enduring voices in the global struggle for liberation. Born in Martinique, Fanon's revolutionary journey would span continents from the French Caribbean to Algeria, from anti-colonial resistance to the pages of some of the most powerful decolonial theory ever written. His books, notably Black Skin, White Masks, and The Wretched of the Earth, did not simply critique the operation. They exposed its psychological scars, its racialized structures, and its lingering post-colonial rot, which still poisons Africa and the global South today. A mirror for our moment. In a world where colonial structures have morphed into IMF conditionalities, military occupation, settler violence, and new colonial puppet regimes, Fanon is not a relic. He is a guide, a warning, a spark. At KowaPodcast, Fanon's words still ring with urgency. They echo in our panel on Tsokachi Live in Hausa language with no filter, debates on Twisdon360 Politics Unplugged, and in every truth we dare to utter against power, plunder, and propaganda. We do not honor Fanon through symbolism or nostalgia. We honor him through action by resisting silence and questioning narrative, and by refusing to submit to any empire, foreign or local. Revolution begins with consciousness. Fanon reminded us that the battlefield is not only the street, it is the psyche in the mind colonized by lies, fear, and inferiority. To liberate Africa, we must first decolonize the African mind. This is why we speak, this is why we challenge, this is why we organize, because, as Fanon wrote, each generation must, out of relative obscurity, discover its mission, fulfill it, or betray it. That's why we already discover our mission, and we are trying to fulfill it, not to betray it. We may never betray ours. This is Twisdon360 Politics Unplugged. This is revolutionary media. Locally, this is a long list of our written op-eds called Outline X Twisdon360. We used to write it every single time on our Facebook page, and you can be able to follow, share, and listen. And we are going to go to our next topic, where we are going to talk about one debate that arises about the coalition of the oppressed, and is also tied with this very protest, because the coalition of the oppressed echo in every Nigerian household, You cannot just say you are leading a coalition of the oppressed without bringing all people together. What we call the Holy Alliance is the alliance of Dr. Bello Galadanchi and ours, Omoyele Sowore, together on one platform to fight for justice. And it is very important and worth reminding the two are freedom fighters and fighting for our democracy and our right. Our next topic is about democracy in Nigeria turned to ritual. That every single time we're just coming out to perform this ritual and stop. Well, democracy is not ending just by holding an election and casting our ballot. So we have to push back. As you know, we say beginning of every revolution or behind every revolution is a consciousness. So in this series of op-ed, there's an op-ed that we have talked about the democracy and its role in Nigerian history and how democracy is supposed to be and how it's supposed to work for the people. We have to tolerate and we have to agree to disagree. These are democratic values, not just casting votes and running away. This is never going to bring the result. You can't just get your right by merely standing as a passerby or as a watcher. You are going to fight and get it. And that's why we said about 7 or 5 guidelines that democracy is not just about casting our votes. And we are going to deep dive into it and tell you how. Democracy has been reduced to a ritual and the rich takes turn to steal. Every 4 years, Nigerians are summoned to perform a sacred ritual, the vote. We queue under the sun in dusty polling stations, clinging to a fading dream that this time will be different. But what follows is always the same, a silent robbery repackaged as a transition. The truth is bitter. The rich do not compete to serve, they compete to steal, and the system is designed to make it legal. Elections are not battles of visions or justice. They are contests of budget size, propaganda, and elite endorsements. Political parties in Nigeria are brand level, not ideological movement. They offer recycled names, sugar-coated lies, and campaign jingles. PDP ruled and looted. APC promised change and brought change. Even LP held as a new post, moved with familiar old tactics, aligning with the same political class it claimed to challenge. INEC is not an independent institution. It is a manager of expectations, not a guardian of democracy. The judiciary is not neutral. The media is often captured, and the international observers, they play in a drink tea and bless the election as largely peaceful, ignoring the chaos that lives in our hunger, insecurity, and despair. They urge us, go and vote wisely. You can't just urge us and say that we should go and vote wisely. But what does wisely mean when every available option is working for the same system? When young people are massacred at toll gates and no one is held responsible? When fuel prices rise while politicians buy private jets? I mean, even the president and build new mansions for vice president. This isn't democracy. It is a elite rotation, a game of musical chairs where billionaires swap position while the poor stay hungry. We vote, they loot. We cry, they campaign again. The problem is not just bad leaders. It is the very structure that protects them. A structure that kills dissent, buys judges, bribes lawmakers, punishes the poor for being poor. The alternative is not apathy, it is awakening. Political education, street mobilization, community organizing, and revolutionary clarity. This country will not be saved by ballots alone unless if it is a ballot revolution. It will be saved by the people power. We must ask deeper question. Who owns the economy and who benefits from our silence? Why do the same people stay rich while the rest stay in pain? Why does Why does democracy never taste like freedom? These are the things we talk about today, and we hope people are going to organize and ask this question. This truth will echo louder as soon as we bring this conversation on, and we indeed do it on KowaPodcast Twisdon360 Politics Unplugged. Don't forget, this is a series of Twisdon X Outline Twisdon X Twisdon360 X Outline. So this is the end of the episode. See you next time. See you in the next episode. Don't forget, we talk about 3 simmering issues. The first one is about the police protest, and the second is about celebrating the Pan-African writer Frantz Fanon, and also talking about democracy and how we are going to change the system by bringing the people power into the play. Don't just tell us to vote wisely. Thank you, and see you another time. Twisdon360 Politics Unplugged from KowaPodcast, signing out.